Hey everybody, Jesus here with Paper Tacos, talking to you from Salinas, California, in the office and fulfillment center, as you could see behind me. As you know, I am the owner and creator of Paper Tacos, but what many of you probably don't know is that I've been a designer for over 20 years. That's right, I've worked for several national brands, global brands, and in Silicon Valley, but today I want to talk about why I left that life and have started to pursue a career in the greeting card business. So let me tell you a little bit about how I got into the career of design. So growing up, I grew up in Castro, California, a very small farm working community. Both my parents are immigrants from Mexico, so I was first generation here. But growing up there, I found right away that I had a talent for drawing and painting. So that's what I was doing a lot of time growing up in my spare time, was just drawing, filling notebooks with drawings and things like that. Particularly, we had like an illustration style that was very cartoony. And so that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to become a cartoonist or an animator. However, being first generation, I didn't know what it took to actually study that, or how to go about becoming an animator. So when I got into high school, I would tell my counselors like, hey, I want to be an animator, and so they would sign me up to the drawing and painting classes. But still, I didn't know that there was certain requirements that you had to do in order to get into art school or to a university. So what happened is, when I was in high school, I applied as I was a senior to universities, but I didn't get admitted because I was missing requirements, and also my grades were not the best. So I went to a community college in Salinas, California. I went to Hartnell College, where I continued my passion in drawing and painting. Part of that process, I had to take a design class, and that's where I learned Photoshop. And with that, my complete outlook changed into what I wanted to do. Now I wanted to be a designer. So that's where my focus kind of shifted. From there, I transferred into California State University, Monterey Bay. And while I was at CSU Monterey Bay, I focused my attention into print publication design. So think of newspapers, catalogs, things like that, posters, anything that has to do with print. That's where I really fine-tuned that skill set. And when I graduated with my bachelor's, I worked in Monterey, California for a catalog company called Discount School Supply. They are a national catalog company, and I would lay out the pages for that. From there, I moved into their web marketing department, where I learned about web design and web marketing. And so I was designing like banner ads and homepage banners, everything that you see when you go into an e-commerce website. That's what I was doing for them. That experience at Discount School Supply then got me a portfolio that I could start applying to companies in Silicon Valley. Salinas is only like an hour away from San Jose, so started applying to some jobs out there. Eventually, I got a call from eBay. So while I was at eBay, I designed emails and banners for their website. So if you subscribe to eBay, at some point, maybe I designed the emails that you got in your inbox. Unfortunately, in Silicon Valley, there is, a lot of layoffs. And so I got laid off while I was at eBay. And from there, I found a job at Hewlett-Packard, HP. At Hewlett-Packard, it was a whole different level. So that's where I learned about a global enterprise company and what exactly does that mean and how does that run behind the scenes. So I was a designer for their homepage, and that's all I was really tasked with, is like optimizing the experiences that people had when they landed on the homepage of hewlettpackard.com. At that point, Hewlett-Packard split into two companies, and they had business to consumer and business to business. I then had the option to stay where I was at, or I could go into the business to business side, which is what I decided to do. At that point, I really got into like product design, specifically for the website. So I went over there. I did a lot of user experience design, user interaction design, and things like that is what I did at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. At the same time, I went back to school to get my master's. So I have a master's of fine arts in advertising, but specifically I focused on art direction. The ability to storytell is so important when it comes to the career of design. And so that's what I focused on. So I got my master's while I was at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. At that time, they made me a contract art director. So things were going really good. From there, I ended up going to ServiceNow. ServiceNow is another company in Silicon Valley. I became a web designer, started there as web design, then got on to user experience design, and eventually, product design, became a manager of product designers. So that was the last job I had as a full-time. But I ended up leaving that because at the same time, I started this side hustle, this hobby called paper tacos. So let me talk a little bit about that. So while I was working at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, I kind of got to like a pinnacle of my career. I was an art director. I had my master's of fine arts, and I kind of lost track into what originally I loved doing, which is what I was doing as a kid. I loved drawing, illustrating, and all that stuff. And that was always kind of in the back of my mind, but I didn't know what I was going to do with that. So one day I went to a fair or market in San Jose, California, and one of the vendors there was selling prints or posters of traditional sayings that we have, in my culture of Mexican descent, which is like "sana sana culita rana," just different sayings like that. And so I was walking around with my girlfriend, my wife now, and we both kind of looked at that and we chuckled a little bit. It brought back a lot of memories, and I remember thinking, oh, that'd be a funny like greeting card, but that was it. That's all I thought about that. Fast forward, like a year later, I was looking for a card for my mom for her birthday, and when I went to the a grocery store, I couldn't really find anything that resonated with her, right? And my mom only speaks Spanish, and the cards that I saw there, yes, they were in Spanish, but they didn't really have that emotional connection with like her sense of humor and her personality. And so when I left there, I thought about that, and I remember that instance that happened at the fair. Like, why is there cars that are really tied to our culture, our traditions? Why are they just in Spanish? And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, they're targeting the Hispanic market. But if you think about that, we're so much more than just the language, right? We have our own culture, we have our own traditions, we have our own music, our food. There's so much that makes us up that is more than just the language. So I thought, what if we incorporated some of that into greeting cards? Greeting cards, something so personal. It's supposed to, convey a certain emotion, both ways, the person giving it and the person receiving it. So if I could incorporate, some of our culture and traditions into these cards, it could be that much more personal and have that emotional connection to both the sender and to the receiver. So I brainstormed like 15 ideas and created paper tacos while I was working at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And that was like my creative outlet. The reason I started this in the first place was because it was a way for me to get back to my original roots of drawing and painting, that cartoon style, illustration style, and keeping my creative juices going, something fun and creative, because in, corporate world, you're very strict on your design guides that you could do. You have to stay to a very specific brand guidelines and styles. You can't really deviate from that, right? So this was my way of like doing something on the side where I could still maintain a lot of creativity. Ultimately, everybody else thought that this was a great idea. If the cards started selling like crazy, I started a website where people could, purchase my cards, papertacos.com, and slowly I started getting a lot of recognition too, some press, some media. And with that, people start noticing. So while I was doing this, someone from Vallarta Supermarkets, if you're from California, it's a supermarket chain. They have over 50 stores. They reached out to me because they were thinking of expanding their floral department, right? And as part of their floral department, they wanted to include greeting cards. And they looked at my cards and they saw what I was doing and they understood it. They understood who I was targeting and how my cards are so much different than the regular Spanish cards that are out there, right? So they reached out to me and asked me if I thought I was in a place where I could fulfill, 50 stores at once and continue the business as we, went forward. So that was the first time I really thought like, wow, maybe I could do something here, right? I don't have to just be a designer for another company. Maybe I could do my own thing. That was the first time I started thinking that. So that I ended up going forward with them. It took like a year to just, like do paperwork and figure out how things are going to work out between us. But eventually in July of 2023, we were able to get our cards into all of their stores. So if you're in California and you go to any Vallarta Supermarkets, you will find paper tacos in those stores. We partner with another greeting card company called Popular Greetings, where we share some of the space together. But you could find paper tacos in all of the Vallarta supermarkets. So when that happened and I started thinking like, what if I could do this, with other stores? Could I expand and be in double, triple the amount of stores that I'm in now? What would that look like and how long would it take me to get there? And how much time would I need to dedicate? Well, when I took on this order from Vallarta, I still had my corporate job. I was doing Vallarta Supermarkets. Plus, I started teaching at my university that I went to, CSU Monterey Bay. So all three things were going on at once, and it was just too much. I had to come down to a moment to really think about what I wanted and what I was going to do moving forward. So ultimately, I came to the decision that I want to stop working at the corporate company and take the plunge with paper tacos and see how it goes. If all else fails, I could put together a portfolio and hopefully get back into the market as a product designer or graphic designer. But this opportunity, who knows if it will ever come again, right? And so I'm going to take the risk and see how big we could grow paper tacos. So as of right now, I'm really just kind of learning the ropes of the retail business, kind of understanding the timelines because they're so different. The orders are huge, and really trying to plan everything is something I'm going through. I'm making a ton of mistakes, but I'm enjoying every step of the way. For the future, I obviously want to be into as many stores as I can, hopefully to create a distribution where if there's other artists out there that want to see more representation of their culture into, the retail space as a greeting card, they could reach out to me and I can put their cards into my distribution channels. So that's ultimately what the long-term vision is. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but little by little, I'm working my way there. So I want to work with more people, be more of a publisher, still design myself, but also just create distribution so that everybody could enjoy the type of cards that I'm making and the other artists are making as well. So stick around with me with my journey. That's the reason why I left my corporate job of 20 years. I was, doing great there too, and I love doing that as well. Don't have a problem if I have to go back. But for now, this is what I'm dedicating all of my time to, which is paper tacos, greeting cards.